$311. That is what sits in your account the morning you turn 31. Not before rent, not before bills, after everything. $300 and a lot of excuses. Excuses you have carried since your mid-20s, like a gym bag you never once took to the gym. It is a Tuesday. You are at your kitchen table, the one with the wobbly leg you never got around to fixing. Your laptop is open because you could not sleep, and not because of the neighbor's dog this time. It is because of the number. You built a budget spreadsheet months ago, then closed it because it was rude. Tonight you open it again, bravely, the way you reopen a text argument you know you're going to lose. Your income is $59,000 a year. That sounds perfectly fine until you actually map it all out. Rent, car payment, insurance, a student loan, groceries, and 6 streaming services you forgot you owned. When the math finishes running, you have been going backward by roughly $200 a month for 2 years, quietly. While thinking of yourself as someone who is generally pretty good with money, you close the laptop, you sit in the dark, and something small shifts, not dramatically, just a quiet click, the sound a door makes when it finally opens, in a house that has been sealed up and ignored for too long. Here is what nobody tells you about starting this wealth thing in your 30s instead of your 20s. You're not behind, you're not doomed, but you're also not getting the clean, easy head start either. Your 20s are gone. Those magical compounding years every finance book brags about are behind you. You know the example. Invest a little at 22, retire on a yacht, laughing. That ship has sailed, and that math is genuinely worth grieving. So grieve it for exactly one night. One. Then we get to work. Because here is the other half of the truth, the half that matters far more than the grieving part does. You're not 22 anymore, and thank goodness, because 22-year-old you made odd choices. You have a real job now. You have actual skills. You can earn more than you did 5 years ago, and you will. And you are finally old enough to stop lying to yourself about what these numbers have been saying. Here is the arithmetic that should get you out of that chair. It is not a sales pitch. It is just cold math. Invest $600 a month now, earn a reasonable average return, and by your 60s, you are a millionaire. Not through magic, not through crypto your cousin texts you about at midnight, through boring, patient math. But $600 a month requires the thing everybody skips, the unsexy work of fixing the leak first, turning that $300 into a real emergency fund, killing the monthly deficit, actually deciding. Truly deciding, that where you are in 5 years matters more than where you eat next Friday. So your first milestone is not $10,000. It is not even 5. It is $1,000 you do not touch. And that sounds easy until you remember $1,000 in your 30s is also a surprise car repair. It is a dentist appointment gone sideways. It is a last-minute flight for a wedding you forgot was happening. Life at 31 has far more surface area than at 22. More things break. More people need you. So building that first 1,000 feels like filling a bathtub with the drain wide open in a very small cup. You sell the jacket you bought at 27 to feel successful at a party nobody even remembers attending. It sells for $40 on an app after a stranger negotiates you down while misspelling the word please. You cancel 4 subscriptions, 3 you did not know existed, and 1 you are strangely a little sad about. You bring lunch from home for 6 weeks, discovering that you can, in fact, eat the same sad wrap many times. You pick up weekend shifts, doing something slightly beneath your job title, and you tell absolutely no one. Because there's a very specific, very quiet embarrassment about hustling in your 30s, and you feel it. Then one morning your account reads $1,040, sitting there, real and solid and yours. You do not celebrate. Who would you even call? Nobody fully understands why this number feels so enormous, but something settles in your chest that was not there before. Proof that you can steer this thing after all. You close the app, you make coffee in your slightly tragic machine, you go to work, but you walk taller. At 32, you automate everything because you finally accept that your willpower is a flaky friend. $400 goes into a retirement account, $200 into savings, all leaving before you can object. It vanishes on the 2nd of every month, quietly, before your brain invents a reason to keep it around. You live on the rest. It is tight. It is occasionally annoying, but it works without needing your permission. And then, because the universe has timing, your car makes a noise. You know the noise. Everyone knows it. That deep, grinding, wallet-threatening groan from underneath on the coldest morning of the entire year. You coast into a parking lot, call the mechanic, and he says the sentence you knew he was going to say. $2,200. He says it gently, the way people deliver news they know is going to hurt. You sit in your slowly dying car and do the math, and something strange happens. You do not panic. At all. Because the money is there. You can pay this without a credit card, without interest, without going backward. 3 years ago, this exact bill would have flattened you financially and emotionally in one clean blow. You would have put it on the card, promised to pay it in 2 months, then watched it haunt you for 8. Instead, you transfer the money, you authorize the repair, you feel something steadier and quieter than joy. You rebuild the fund over the next 4 months, and you do not miss a single automated contribution doing it. That same year, you finally ask for the raise you have been quietly rehearsing in the shower for months. You walk in expecting a no, armed with a list of everything you have done, palms slightly sweaty and cold. They say yes, not the full number, but close, and you walk out feeling 10 feet tall for exactly 1 hour. Then the old instinct arrives, whispering that a raise means a reward, a nicer apartment, a shinier life. But you have learned the trick by now. You send most of the raise straight to your investments, untouched. Your lifestyle barely notices. Your future self, however, quietly throws a small party on your behalf. At 33, something happens that nobody mentions when they describe what building wealth is like. It has nothing to do with your balance, nothing to do with your portfolio, almost nothing to do with money. But first, the market drops. A lot. You watch real money evaporate on the screen in real, churning time. You check the account every day for 2 weeks, like poking a bruise to confirm that, yes, it still hurts. Then you force yourself to stop looking. You keep contributing. You buy more while it is cheap, hands shaking. You do not sell. Everything in your nervous system is screaming to sell, and you politely ignore all of it. By year's end, it is recovered, like the drop was just the market having a dramatic little emotional episode. But here is the quiet thing that happened in between, the part that matters more than the numbers ever will. You are in a store on a Saturday buying a coffee maker because the tragic one finally gave up completely. You are holding 2 boxes. One is cheap. One costs 3 times more but lasts years and actually works well. The old you would have grabbed the cheap one instantly, no thought required, and replaced it again in a year. But you stand there doing a different kind of math, thinking about how many years you will actually use it. Cost per use, lifespan, warranty. You calculate like a tiny accountant has quietly moved into your brain. You buy the good one. You carry it to the car. And you realize something genuinely significant just happened. You're no longer deciding in a 30-day window. You are thinking in years, and you did not even force it. The wiring changed on its own quietly, with no announcement, no motivational video in the background. And that invisible little shift is worth more than almost every clever tactic in any finance book alive. Somewhere in here is the part they never put in the motivational montages. The long, boring, flat middle. Months pass where nothing exciting happens at all. You contribute. You wait. You contribute again. You wait. No dramatic wins. No confetti. Just the same quiet transfer on the same quiet day, over and over and over. This is the part where most people quietly quit, bored, convinced it is not working because it is not loud, but boring is the sound of it working. Wealth is built in the flat, dull middle that nobody films for content. You keep going, not because it is thrilling, but because you have finally learned to trust the slow math. In the spring of your 34th year, your company sends the email. You know the word. Everybody knows it. Restructuring. It lands on a Thursday afternoon, and by 3, the office goes quiet in a very specific way. The kind of quiet where everyone is secretly messaging and stealthily updating their profile online. You go home and run the numbers calmly, because you have tracked your spending down to the dollar for years. If you lose this job, savings buys you several months. Your investments sit behind that as a deeper backup. You are not invincible, but you are not one paycheck from total collapse the way you were at 31. The layoffs come 2 weeks later. Not you, but 3 people you like carry boxes to their cars that morning. And you feel a complicated stew of relief, guilt for the relief, and a cold clarity underneath both of them. This will happen again to you or someone near you, and the only real defense is time bought in advance. So you quietly raise your emergency fund target, and you do it without selling any of your investments. Around this time, a friend rolls up in a brand new luxury car, financed over an eye-watering 7-year loan. He does not mention the 7 years. He calls it a great deal and changes the subject with impressive speed. But you know what he earns, and you know what that car costs monthly, and those 2 numbers are not friends. You sit in the passenger seat and feel the pull of it, the leather, the silence, the expensive door thunk. And a little voice whispers, "You have been so disciplined, do you not deserve something nice too, really?" You notice the voice. You do not argue with it. You do not shame yourself for it. You just let it drift past. Because you have learned the secret about desire. Desire is not the enemy. Desire on a reckless whim is. The question was never, do I want this? It is, what does this actually cost me in years and in freedom? You climb out and walk back to your sensible, aging, deeply uncool car, and you feel something unexpected. It is clarity, the grounded peace of knowing exactly what you are doing and exactly why you're doing it. Your portfolio crosses 50,000 on an ordinary Thursday. You notice it between meetings, mid-sandwich. You do not throw a party. You go back to the meeting. but the number hums in the back of your mind all day. Because this one feels different. This one feels structural, like a foundation that has been poured and set. Everything you build from here sits on this, and this is precisely why you started now instead of later. Foundations need time to cure, and you finally, stubbornly, unglamorously gave yours the time it needed. A couple of years later, something happens that quietly redefines what this entire wealth thing was even for. Your mother calls on a Sunday evening, sounding careful, rehearsed, the way people sound before hard asks. The roof has been leaking for months. She ignored it as long as she could. The repair is thousands of dollars. She has been calling around. She does not know what to do, and she is so sorry to even have to ask you this. You tell her not to be sorry. You tell her you will take care of it. And then you sit there holding the phone, not because of the money. That part is simple now. You transfer it the next day, touching no investments. What you sit with is the sentence you just said. I will take care of it. Said without any hesitation. Said without the frantic math of what card, what sacrifice, how many months of quiet dread it would cost you. 5 years ago, helping her would have meant debt and a shame spiral about being an adult who could not help. This time, you just helped. Instantly. That is the moment you understand what the money was really for. It was never the number. It is the power to show up for people you love without wrecking your own stability. It is capacity. It is the quiet power to say yes when it genuinely matters most. You sleep fine that night. By your late 30s, your portfolio earns thousands in a single year purely from growth, not your deposits. You are now, technically, making money in your sleep. On weekends, on sick days, on days you forget, it exists. The machine runs, whether you watch it or not. You built it slowly, contribution by contribution, over years. Through the car repair, the layoff scare, the market drop, and the phone call that once would have broken you. The credit card debt is gone. The student loans are gone, paid off in a single transfer that felt oddly quiet. And here is the part nobody posts about online, the strange, lonely little cost of doing this whole thing. Most of the people you love are simply not doing it. Some are in real pain that is genuinely hard to watch. Some earn more than you and spend all of it in a way that looks fine right up until the day it does not. You have tried to bring it up, gently, twice. It went nowhere both times. People do not change over dinner. They change in the dark, at a kitchen table, when their own number gets too uncomfortable to keep ignoring, exactly like you did. And you cannot manufacture that moment for anyone else, however much you love them. So you carry it quietly. You split the bill evenly, even when you ordered the cheapest thing on the whole menu. You do not turn discipline into a personality. You do not lecture. You quietly feel the gap and keep going. This is the part of building wealth that looks like nothing at all from the outside. No trophy, no applause. Just a person at dinner with people they love, carrying something private and choosing to keep carrying it. You wake on your 40th birthday, and before coffee, before your phone, you lie there in the dark a moment, and you think about that kitchen table, the wobbly leg, the $300, the spreadsheet you closed. Then you check the number, and it is real, and it is solid, and it is many, many times what it was that night. You are not a millionaire yet. You are not internet famous free, but you are stunningly far from that chair. The median person your age has almost nothing saved. You have a genuine, working, liquid foundation now, not from luck, though luck played a part. Not from inheritance, simply because you started and continued, because you automated the behavior before the motivation ever showed up. And motivation, frankly, runs late, because you paid cash for a repair in a cold parking lot and rebuilt the fund without complaining too loudly, because you helped your mother without hesitation and then slept like a baby the very same night you did it, because you stayed in the market when every nerve in your body begged you, loudly, to run for the exits. And somewhere along the way, you realized something you genuinely did not see coming when you began all this. Years ago, you thought wealth would feel like a big number on a screen, confetti raining from the ceiling. It did not. It felt like paying for a car repair without panic, like surviving a layoff email without fear. It felt like telling your mother, I will take care of it, and actually, fully, calmly meaning every word. Most of all, it felt like waking one ordinary morning and realizing the future stopped happening to you. It quietly became something you were building, on purpose. One boring, stubborn, unglamorous choice at a time. So, if you are at your own wobbly kitchen table tonight, staring at your own uncomfortable number, listen. You are not too late. You're not behind in any way that starting tonight cannot slowly begin to fix. The best time was your 20s, sure. The second best time is tonight, at this table with this exact number. If this hit a little too close to home in the best possible way, then you already know what to do from here. Subscribe, because the next video breaks down exactly how to build that first foundation, step by boring step.